underneath it's all divided. The Christians and all the different denominations of Christianity that are there. There's Catholic, there's Greek Orthodox, there's Serbian Orthodox, there's Russian Orthodox, there's probably any number of other expressions of Christianity, all woven into the fabric of life there in Israel. There is certainly every level of Judaism, from completely non-religious to the most ultra-Orthodox, to every different aspect. And then you have the Muslim religion and traditions. In addition, you have all the cultural and social and economic stratifications going on. In this very small area, the Terrasan, the Holy Land, is, as Gangamata says, for those who are East Coasters, it's about the size of New Jersey. For those who are Oregon-centric, it's about 1/6 the size of Oregon. The entire is very, very small. So all this is going on. Jerusalem, Tel Aviv is like Portland. We felt actually very much like Portland. If you moved Portland to a nice warm coast, you'd have Tel Aviv.
Just like Portland plus 40 degrees.
Yeah. But Jerusalem is, and it's I think the largest city in Israel. Jerusalem is completely distinct, discrete in its vibration, in its presence. It's the third largest city, second or third largest city in Israel. And it's up on a mountain, 2,500 foot elevation, and it's like really, really far away. It takes you an entire hour to go from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv airport. Just to give you an idea of how small it is, I mean, the time it takes for us to drive from Laurelwood to the airport is more time than it takes to get from Jerusalem down to the Tel Aviv airport. So this is all happening in a very, very small area. And within it, all these different have got extraordinary self-identity. And that's okay. When you start talking about how we get in this world, first there's perception, the ability to perceive, the awareness that we are aware. The second is we start to identify things as separate. We start to identify that I'm not her, I'm not Mary, I'm not Stephen, and Stephen isn't me, and he's not Gangamata. We start to realize just how different things are. And we're still not bound. And then we start to realize our relationships to the different things that are out there. We see, we start to perceive and we see the fact that things are different. Then we start to identify them. That's a horse. Then we start to go, oh, that's my horse. We start to relate and understand appropriate relations. We're still not bound. The place we get bound is, I like my horse. I'm committed to my horse. And what happens to my horse affects me emotionally, spiritually. I'm bound to it in ways that are really fixed. And therein lies the problem. It's not the fact that you've got Muslims and Palestinians and Jews and Christians and all these different configurations and Israelis all in this mix. That's wonderful. It's fascinating. It's beautiful. It's the commitment to this is who I am and you're less or you're different. And as we went through Israel, as we went through this area, it was striking because although we felt, there's 2 or 3 up here, Jamie, if you're looking for seats, and there's, I think, 2 or 3 over here as well. Thank you. If you're looking for, we were not looking for struggle, but we went out the last day we were there. We went out into a marketplace in Jerusalem about, half an hour from the hotel we'd been staying in, and we took a train, like Max, actually. And as we got on, we were, fumbling with the Hebrew lettering on the signage and trying to figure out how to pay and get a ticket and all that kind of thing. And somebody came over and helped, and we were talking with this woman. And she said she had just returned also to Jerusalem. She'd been away for some weeks. And in the time that she was gone, there were these concrete blocks that were posted kind of all over the place because Palestinians had been taking their cars and driving into people at train stations. And so there was incredible stress. In fact, the day we left, we got on the plane, and within 12 hours of getting on the plane, a really terrible tragedy. A couple of Palestinian men went and assaulted some Jewish people in their synagogue in prayer in the morning. And from every single standpoint, in talking with the different people, you could understand from their perspective the justification for their actions and their experiences. A wise person once said that no problem is ever solved at the level of consciousness from which it was created. That from any one of the 3 or 4 or 5 standpoints that are there in that Holy Land, in that crucible, you can understand why there would be an eruption of violence and anger and it's all self-justifying as long as you stay within that level of consciousness. But the second, the reason these masters came, the reason we have World Brotherhood Day, the reason Ananda exists, and Ananda, I must tell you, Ananda is one of the most powerful forces for the living experience of World Brotherhood on the planet today. And it's sweeping the planet. It is one of the most viable and meaningful things that can possibly be going on. Because just look around this room, even. Look at all the different cultures that are here. We've got India, we've got China, we've got all kinds of Europeans, we've got somebody from Iowa, for God's sake. Yeah, we have 2 Iowans. I mean, the amount of variety is endless. And yet we live together with divine joy and friendship and harmony. And it's beautiful, it's rich. And we don't even notice. There was a beautiful celebration of the 4th of July, America's actual creation, about 4 years ago. And there were about 110 people. It was at Ananda Portland community, a few miles from here. And it was striking. I just stepped aside for a moment because there were about 110 people there. And I was just reflecting on why Ananda exists. Because Yogananda said that World Brotherhood is a concept better understood by experience than by precept. When you're around people and you have the commonality, you have the connection from the center to center, then all the differences, all the variety is entertainment, it's beauty, it's fascinating. But if you don't have that connection, it becomes irritating and problematic. Well, I thought, what does it look like here today? And I just started looking at the different individuals there. And of that group of people that day, there were 33 nationalities represented out of 100 people. And it was just seamless. There were piñatas going on. There were songs from different cultures going on. It was just endless. And it was just one of the most beautiful days. And nobody noticed. Nobody noticed the differences, except by virtue of enjoying the tapestry. This is Yogananda's words. He says, this is a prayer demand from the book Whispers from Eternity. It's his book of prayer demands and poems. He said we should pray to God not as beggars, but as divine children. And he says, this is a prayer demand, make me anything. Make me anything. A Christian, a Hindu, anything to realize thee. Let me be Christian, Jew, Hindu, Buddhist, Mohammedan, or Sufi. I care not what my religion, race, creed, or color, if only I can win my way to thee. Let me be none of these if that identity enmeshes me in an enclosing net of religious or social formalities, which is what we ran into in Israel. Let me travel the royal high road of realization which leads to thee. If I am traveling on some bypath of religion, lead me onto the one common highway of realization which leads straight to thee. Send me the sunshine of thy wisdom, that it lead me to the morning of my growing powers, and send me the moon of thy mercy to guide me rightly, if ever I am lost in the dark night of sorrow. So this is what the masters came to bring. They came to bring us the experience, to break us out of the hypnosis of our self-identity, in the experience of that one light of God within ourselves. And that's what we celebrate today. The celebration will be, just to give a little bit of idea, we'll have lots of music. We'll have a slideshow from the Holy Land journey. The Gangamata will talk. I will probably end up talking again. Anybody surprised? And then we'll have, this is the first gift of the season. Christmas is a time of giving. It's the influence of Christ expanding our hearts in identity with all of life. And this is the chance to offer, before we offer to our friends, before we offer to our loved ones, to offer back to God on behalf of the gift that He's given us in Ananda, in this Sangha, in this worldwide family of unity and friendship and spiritual connection. It's a chance to offer ourselves into that light, that it can continue to expand ever more powerfully into this world, to change and uplift and bless. Nothing is ever, money has no meaning, and we should never do anything solely for the purpose of money. But money is a universal catalyst for empowering things, and we vote every time we spend $1, every time we spend a penny. We're voting with our dollars, we're voting with our energy. And what we put our energy into is what grows in this world. So this is a chance for us to say, God is important. Communion, self-realization is the most important thing. This vision of unity and bringing the world together is the most compelling thing in my life. And I give my energy first to that and then to everything else. So that's what today is about. And we'll start with a couple pieces of music. Okay.
Perpetual wisdom. Earth-bound possessions and glory all fade away, but God-bound possessions hold through eternity, serving with supreme usefulness. Why worship material comfort on the altar of change? Learn to adore spiritual comfort in the temple of indestructibility. The best way to convert earthly accumulations into imperishable heavenly treasure is to use them for spiritual service. Christ must be lived to be known. In all good actions, in every material and spiritual service, and in the manger of meditation, the immortal cosmic Christ is born anew. No one can know about that Christ by reading books on theology. One must feel His presence in the bower of deep meditation. In the cradle of meditation-tuned thoughts, woven with tender twigs of devotion, behold the newborn Christ, lulled by the cooing dove of inner peace. In these 20 centuries, Christmas has been celebrated 1,935 times, yet how few have realized the true significance of the birth of Jesus. Every year, God and the angels recognize this occasion with celestial celebrations for the good of all. So let each one of you, by prior weeks of deep meditation, prepare for his consciousness to celebrate this coming Christmas. The arrival of the newborn Christ consciousness in the hamlet of your meditation will be indescribably fascinating, uplifting, and expanding to your soul. Prepare for Christ by decorating the spinal Christmas tree of your meditating consciousness with many new perceptions of the divine Christ, with ever-twinkling stars of wisdom and lotus blossoms of divine love. At the foot of this inner Christmas tree lay all your material desires to be presented once and forever to the Christ joy within you. Then, on awakening Christmas morn, Christ will draw near the many-branched Christmas tree of your consciousness to receive your presence and to give unto you his imperishable gifts of omnipresence, omniscience, divine love, cosmic light, ever wakefulness, and ever new joy, bound with the golden strings of eternity. As we were traveling into a temple in Bethlehem, there was a sign on the door that I almost missed as I was entering. And it said, it was just basically taped on. It was just a piece of paper. It didn't look like it was anything permanent, so I don't know if it was put up there for me as I was traveling as a pilgrim. But it said, "We are hoping that if you enter as a tourist, you would exit as a pilgrim. If you enter as a pilgrim, you would exit as a holier one." Yogananda taught that environment is stronger than will, that environment can help support our spiritual growth, our spiritual environment, because it's hard to do it on our own with the world so focused on material desires and the things of this world. It's so easy to let God aside. And so Yogananda stressed how important environment was. And so he talked about World Brotherhood colonies. Towards the end of his life, no matter what topic he was talking about, he would always talk about World Brotherhood colonies, the coming together of like-minded souls to create community where we can support each other in our spiritual growth. And as Daiva was saying, this is what Ananda was created for. Swami Kriyananda heard this call. He heard it from Yogananda, and he created World Brotherhood colonies. And as a result now, we have Ananda Portland. It's so amazing to go on a trip like the Holy Land, because as Daiva was saying, it's so diverse. Because of just its location in the Middle East, you have the influence of Europe, of Africa, of the Middle East, and it's reflected in so many ways. It's reflected in the food. You saw a picture of the food. I couldn't resist putting it in there. It's such a mix of the different regions in the area, the cultures, but then also the different spirituality, the different religions that you find. It's such an incredible mix. And if you just focus on the surface, that's what you see is the diversity. Oh, how odd at breakfast we have a vegetable salad. If you just look at the surface, that's what you see. But you don't have to dig very deep to see the underlying unity, and that's what we're celebrating today. We visited a place called Pater Nostre. I'm having a hard time talking also. But it's a place where the Our Father was given, where the Our Father was recited. And it's so beautiful because as you walk around the temple grounds, you see it written in English, but then you see it in so many other languages. And I forget the amount. I remember being astounded. Over 50. I thought it was even higher. I remember thinking, there can't be that many languages in this world. And it's so beautiful. I was going around trying to take a picture of all of them. Spanish, it was Italian, but there was even Croatian and Serbian, all the ones that are dear to my heart. They were all over. But our guide that we had in the Holy Land, he spoke Italian. He understood English, but he was licensed to guide us in Italian. But he was Jewish. And so there was the prayer in Hebrew and then also in Arabic. And we asked him to say the prayer out loud to us in the Hebrew language and then also in Arabic. And he did the Hebrew. And interesting, when you go below the surface, I didn't understand the words. But again, if you go below the surface, it's all the same vibration. And then we begged him to say it in Arabic, and he goes, well, I don't know it that well, but okay. And he said it, and we didn't know the difference. And he said, I kind of messed it up here and there. But we said, no, it was the same vibration. Same vibration. And what Yogananda was telling us in this beautiful article that he wrote after visiting the Holy Land, the reminder of where is the true pilgrimage? It's inside. Right? We talked about this the other night at Laurelwood. We think of pilgrimage as where you're physically moving your body, right? You move from place to place. But what happens when you go in meditation? Meditation, things move, right? We let go of all those things. We don't think, or all those things we think we are, all those tendencies, habits, patterns, we let go of those, and then what do we discover? That underlying what? Love, kindness, peace. The beautiful song, Brothers, always reminds me of something that a disciple asked Yogananda towards the end of Yogananda's life. He said, "Sir, but what will happen when you are gone?" And Yogananda said, "Only love can take my place, only love." Again, when we go deep enough in our spine, deeper in our meditation, we discover that love, that light. And by emphasizing those qualities, we help to share those qualities. Prior to leaving on this trip, we didn't know for a number of weeks if we were going. There was a lot going on in the Middle East, and every time we would talk to our friend Arjuna, who led the pilgrimage with us, we would Skype with him weekly. And he would say, "Well, it's not for us now, this pilgrimage. This is for us to go and share Yogananda's light, to share his vibration. That's why we're going." And as soon as he said that, I said, "Well, of course." When we emphasize the light, when we emphasize all those qualities of what? Of World Brotherhood Day, they rise to the surface. That's what it's about. And that's what this lovely celebration is. It is a tradition, as Daiva said. It's a beautiful way to start the holiday season. That reminder that we're all one in God's eyes. And we wish we could have taken you all with us on our pilgrimage. That was the only downside. But if you saw a picture, we took everyone that gave us a photo. We took even the phone list with us from Laura Wood and Ananda Portland. And we took you with us everywhere. Because true pilgrimage is inside. It's the quality of the heart and joy and peace. So we hope to go back. There's no date set, but start saving your shekels. They actually use shekels in Israel. It's really fun currency, but God bless you all. I think we'll have some more music.
The language of the heart. And one of the things we've been blessed with through Ananda is an extraordinary wealth of music that's both light and uplifting and also profoundly inspiring, that can take us deep within. One of the things about Ananda is that what we're trying to do is not obvious. You can't give it a color. You can't give it a box. There's nothing outwardly that defines Ananda. Ananda is a movement of consciousness. It is the movement of joy, the movement of divine love from deep within ourselves, the flow of which is opened in deep meditation, in the stillness of our own souls, in communion with Spirit, forever. Because it's how life is made, forever. At the center of every true religion has been meditative practice. The Bible says, "Be still and know." Hinduism, India, has held yoga. The culmination of all yoga is in meditation. Every single path that's truly connected to an avatar, that's truly connected to the incarnation of God in this world, is tied to stillness. Yogananda went so far as to say that it is the prayers and meditation of those who commune deeply with God that keep this planet from tearing itself apart. He said, even the weather is a reflection of man's consciousness. And the avarice and restlessness and tension and angst and storminess of human experience outwardly is reflected in the very weather patterns that we have. He said, you have no idea the amount of blessings that you bring to this world every time you sit and meditate. Every time you reach inside to commune, you change the story. He predicted, he said, I've been expecting this since the 1970s, well before I knew of Yogananda, that we can't go on the way we're going. that something will change. It just, it just keeps building in tension. He said it would happen before the turn of the century, and here we are a good number of years past. He said the capacity to mitigate karma, to change the future, to change what actually will unfold, is a function of deep meditation. It's a function of communion with Spirit. And what's deeply needed on the planet today is sustainability. We need patterns of life and behavior throughout every aspect of our relationship to life that is sustainable. We need it environmentally. We need it in terms of agriculture. We need it in terms of energy management and energy uses. We need it in terms of pollution. We need it in everything. There is nothing more sustainable. There is nothing more sustainable than being in tune with Spirit. Learning to live simply, not in contraction, but in expansive awareness that we don't need much. That it's in our connections, our relationships, our friendships, our simple connection with life that fulfillment happens. Swami Kriyananda noted many years ago, he said, if everyone lived the way we do at Ananda, the problems of this world simply wouldn't exist. In this last year, Ananda Portland has gone as an emissary, has gone out emissarily, if that's the word, throughout Italy, carrying this light. It's gone, Dambara took this light with Asha and a small handful of others throughout New Zealand. We took it to the Holy Land. Who here has traveled in the last year? Raise your hand. Anywhere. Has anyone who's traveled in this last year? Look around. Raise your hand, look around. Everywhere you've gone, to the degree that you've carried the consciousness, the born of meditation, you've been an emissary. You've carried Ananda with you and uplifted and changed the story of this world. And then coming together in this temple and teaching center, gathering together at Ananda community, serving through the businesses like New Renaissance Bookshop and is Paul and Galena here, through their yoga studio and through Dharmic Business Guild and the healing arts that Omkara sponsors and so many other people work with. All these various aspects are ways of carrying that light outward. The development of Ananda House and the holding of the power of wrapping up this life with tremendous dignity, but more than dignity, with communion, with the letting go, the final release of all threads tying us to this world, so that as we let go of this body, we merge into Spirit. And then the founding of Ananda Laurelwood and the development of Ananda Laurelwood as a retreat facility, as a community, as a place of education, where people from all over the world have been coming. We've hosted dozens of countries, people from dozens of countries. And across the board, people leave going, this has been a meaningful and rich experience, a meaningful part of my existence. And they carry that with them then into their environment. It's how it spreads. So even though you can't give it a form, a shape, a color, a size, you can't define it outwardly, what we're doing together is one of the most important things on the planet today. And tied with all the other aspects of Ananda and all the other truth seekers of all the other paths who are working from communion outward instead of from form inward. It's the thing that's most desperately needed. And it's an action of love. It's a gift of love. It's a gift. It's the one gift that we can bring into this world at this time. So what we're going to do is we're going to have one more piece of music. And then we're going to have time for an offering. And in that offering, there'll be some background chanting. And people are welcome to, there's a form on everybody's seat, a little pledge card. If you've got what you'd like to offer today, typical, across the 50 years Ananda's been in existence, a typical offering is a day's wage. But whatever works for you, God watches the heart. Whatever speaks from your heart, toward God on behalf of this movement of energy that's changing the consciousness of the planet, that's what you should bring up. And when you bring it up, spend a moment in front of the altar and just feel for your love of God and His responding love that's expressed through Ananda, through the spiritual family and the spiritual family globally. And then come to either side, and we'll be there to bless you on behalf of the masters. And then you'll have a piece of prasad that came from Israel, and then a little gift from us as well. So we'll have one more piece of music. Take it deep within, and then we'll go straight into the offering.